Hey everyone, this is Steve Van Diest. I am the co-host of the Sharpen podcast, brought to you by Acumen. Acumen is a peer advisory growth community in Colorado, Arizona, Kansas City. If you are a business owner looking for a community to help you be challenged, to be grown, to be inspired, sometimes even poked in the chest, we're there for you. Today, we're going to talk about growth and growth in your business, growth in a unique industry of fast casual food services, but also not losing quality, your heart and your rhythms, being able to pump the brakes. And so we have an expert in this world. Why don't you introduce yourself, Nick, and tell us more about your role and what you're doing and how you got to this place today?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. I'm Nick Usher. I'm the president of GQue BBQ. I've been in the restaurant industry now for well over 20 years. I started in the fast casual sector actually with Chick-fil-A. So learned from, I think, one of the best to do it, and they continually still do it and do it really well. I've been with GQue now over 8 years. I met Jason Ganal, the founder, back in 2016, about 6 months after he opened up in 2015, and it's been a heck of a ride ever since.
You know, it's interesting, and I met Jason years ago as well through the University of Colorado football connection. And because Acumen is a strong community, we're going to leave Arizona out of this. I don't think they're allowed to talk to us about barbecue, but there's this Kansas City, Colorado, and so GQue BBQ here on the Front Range. It's three restaurants. It's ice cream farm attached to many of them. You're in every stadium. You're about to open up two more. It is amazing. It's my family's favorite. So I have four children, married and teenagers, and we've done many experiments testing out barbecue. And you guys have become our favorite. You're one of my favorite. I get to work alongside you here in Colorado. Now, tell us about growth and some of the experiences of growth. You guys are on a growth trajectory this next year that's going to push the limits. But how do you hold that? Your barbecue has not changed since I've met you guys about 8 years ago. And so, how do you handle all that?
Yeah, I'll say with barbecue specifically, it's tough because barbecue is definitely more of an art, as you would know, than a science, right? There's no just, push a button or pull it off at this time or set a timer. It's more of an art, right? And so to teach a team of people at multiple different locations that art and to do it well is the most difficult part. I mean, if you look at barbecue places around the country that are known for their barbecue, they're typically one, maybe two locations. So it shows how difficult it is to do it to scale. And so when we set out to really make Colorado on the barbecue map, we knew that we had to master it before we could duplicate it. So we just had our one location in Westminster 9 years ago. We knew that we had to master the process, know how to duplicate it internally with having multiple people do it before we could then enter in a new market. So we just done it slowly. It took us about 3 years to open up our second location, and we were almost a little surprised at ourselves at how well we were able to duplicate that process and how consistent we were able to keep it. Our plan then was to continue to grow at a rapid pace, and then 2020 hit with COVID, so that definitely slowed us down a little bit. So that kind of gave us another just, hey, we gotta make sure that we're protected and we perfect this craft before we continue to grow. And we've done a good job of just building that infrastructure now to where we know that we can grow at a much more rapid pace because we learned how to walk before we could run instead of just growing for the sake of growth.
Yeah, because there's restaurants that pop up in here, and I talk about some burger restaurants off camera with you. And I remember when they first opened up their first locations, I was blown away by this amazing burger. And then a few short years after massive fast growth around here as well as around the country, the qualities is really dropped off. So in that part of that is yes, it's an art form, but you also have how many employees currently, and they're about to add on probably another how many?
Yeah, right now we have about, including our stadium crew, about 100 to 115 employees at any given time. So with adding on a couple new locations, and there could be another stadium coming in the near future too. It could get close to doubling, so we could have close to 200 employees by the end of this year. So hopefully doubling in the top line revenue, but then we'll double in the team. So it's again now it's twice as many people to understand the culture and what we're trying to do and to follow through with what we built.
Any key pieces of wisdom that you can share with other business owners? Yes, you've got quite a few employees for a number of
Mhm.
locations because it is a restaurant world and there's a lot of that. How do you manage that culture of creating growth and the science of running a business and cash flow, but also this art form? Any key tips of wisdom that you can share? Because I knew you're directly involved and you've kind of gone through the ranks and
Yeah.
learned it all.
Yeah, I'll say like the biggest thing that we look for is just hiring from the heart. Hiring about people that they want to do really well, they care, they're coachable, they want to learn, they want to grow. That's what we look for instead of just the skill set. I often joke that I would actually rather take somebody that doesn't know anything about barbecue because they're moldable, they're teachable, they want to learn more rather than someone that's already has it all figured out, right? And there's nothing else that you can teach them, right? And so I think oftentimes we look for someone that has experience. You see it all the time in all sorts of industries where you say, hey, we require this many years of experience, right? And we say, well, we don't necessarily need you to have experience. We just need you to have heart that where if you see something it doesn't look right, you're going to do something about it or you're going to say something. And also, too, you're going to be able to take feedback and you're going to take coaching. You're going to want to continually grow and do better. We're in the process right now. We have a strong core values and try to hire people to those values. We're trying to potentially revamp those values because as we've evolved over the last 9 years, we evolve in what our needs and expectations are too. So just constantly reevaluating our business as time change because when we set forth to do this back in 2015, the scope of what we have right now looks way different than it does today in 2025. So just evolving and forcing ourselves to grow because we expect it of our staff and our team and things like that.
And now you're also dealing with the uniqueness of the geography of Colorado. Yes, you're going to open up five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10
Mm,
restaurants, but Colorado is a skinny, yes, everybody thinks, well, it's a square state and it just
yeah,
must be easy. You just circle around your stores. But where we play on the Front Range, it's called the Front Range because it's 200 miles north and south. And so you've got that dynamic as well of how do we create that culture? I love the fact you said we hire from the heart. In my retail days of 2008 to 2020, we had sleep stores. And I didn't come from the sales world. I came from the nonprofit world, and we launched these luxury mattress stores. And we used to say, we'll go hire people that can love people well and have a heart, and they can build a relationship with the customer. We can teach them to sell, and we can teach them about sleep and mattresses. And it really changed the culture because there's a stigma, and there probably is in the food industry. It's not always built around heart. It's just
mm,
churn and burn and get those
yeah.
margins and go. You mentioned something to me off camera as well. Grow to manage, but also we've built in systems to pump the brakes. Tell me more about the pumping the brakes and how do
Yeah,
you
and
build
that,
that in?
yeah, absolutely. It's to ensure that we have the ability to do what we want to do as we grow. So one thing I think we've done a really good job at is investing in people really almost before we need it. We
Mm.
have a really strong support staff right now that if someone was to look at our size of our organization, they would probably say that we have too many people on staff, that we have too many people in higher leadership positions for the volume that we're doing or for the amount of restaurants that we're doing. And we know that, but it's making the investment in the people, making the investment in the organization to where that's going to help us get where we need to be. Someone might say, like, when you have 10 restaurants, you should have this in place. Well, we'll probably have that in place when we have 5 restaurants because we know that's going to help this spur the growth to get us to 10 restaurants. And then when we get there, we're not reactive, we're way more proactive in just building that foundation, that strong foundation to be able to stand on as we grow instead of getting to where we kind of feel like we got too out ahead of ourselves. And now all of a sudden we're scrambling because we over leverage ourselves. So it really truly is okay, here's what we want to do. Have we perfected it? Not that we just did get it right, but have we perfected it? And now let's go duplicate that again. So that's where we're at now. We have like I said, a very, very strong support staff. I have three different individuals in our director level, again, if you have three brick and mortar restaurants plus a couple stadium locations, that probably seems like overkill. But we know that once we open up 2 to 3 more locations, we're going to need it anyway. So why not develop them and get those people in place now to help us get to that growth?
Now I know you work a ton and you're challenged, you're a great leader and you work alongside the founder. And how do you manage those key people? What's kind of a rhythm that you found has worked with going, hey, we're still going to push them, we're going to develop them, but we also have to have checks and balances because there's a lot of moving parts in your world. You've
Mhm.
got really three restaurant locations, and it's barbecue and ice cream, and they're in
Yeah.
the same, they're usually in the same roof.
Hmm.
I love to say if I'm going to have a splurge day, now when I eat there with you, you eat healthy. You eat your smoked turkey. It's awesome. The vegetables are amazing. I go for the Sasquatch. I want the onion rings, and then I want to finish. I also want to pair it with some of your fine bourbon that you guys have, as well as I want to finish it with ice cream. So I could pretty much pull in about 3,000 calories in one meal. That would be an ideal day. But what's the rhythm for you guys and to manage all that chaos from you've got drinks and it's the food, which is not an easy food. It starts the day before,
Yeah.
all that stuff. How are you managing those people? What have you found to do really
It's a lot
well?
of like trust and verify, right? So we have, a GM that runs each location, and obviously it's someone that we trust. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put him in that position. And it really just falls on that. It's a trust and verify system, right? So we trust that we've given them the tools and resources to help make the right decision. And again, since we've hired from the heart, that they're going to want to make the right decision. And then we can really just come back and just verify the things that are taking place, whether it's spot checks in the restaurant to make sure the food quality is going out, the food's safe, it's served at the right temperature, employees are following the right procedures. To like I said, our director level team where we truly inspire, like, hey, here's your roles, here's your responsibility, here's your area of expertise. Whatever you think is best, we want you to be able to make those decisions, and we're really here just to kind of bounce ideas off you. Now, if you kind of get too far off the tracks, we're going to get you back on, right? But really, I think people love to feel empowered, and really, people do love to feel accountable as well. And so, if you say something, holding somebody accountable, I think people at times are afraid to hold people accountable in fear that there's, oh, what if I hold them too much accountable? They'll quit or they'll leave or they won't do a very good job. But people thrive on accountability. They really want to be held accountable. And so when you can kind of call somebody out on their stuff, I think they respect it more and they're way more likely to do it right the next time than if you were just to allow it to continue the bad behavior to kind of continue to go on.
You know what? You're a family man. You've got young kids, and I'm a family man. I've got older kids. I'm not going to say I'm older than you, but there's that element as well. A home that has no barriers in check. And we're not trying to
Mm-hmm.
helicopter parent our kids. We're not trying to beat them, but accountability and love, and but also empowerment for,
Mm-hmm.
and you have two young boys,
Yeah.
growing those young boys into young teenagers to young men to empower them to find their manhood that's really healthy and balanced, but to
Mm-hmm.
provide them accountability and some and barriers. It's that application that also applies to our employees. They want that because in a
Yeah.
culture that doesn't have a lot of home stability these days, GQue can provide a lot of that home structure for these employees to thrive.
Absolutely. And kids, I think, is a great analogy, right? When they're under our roof, we can, that they follow the rules. And if not, we can reprimand them and things like that.
Yeah.
However, when they're at school, when they're hanging out with their friends, we're not there
No.
to really be there. So it's hopefully all of the values that we've entrusted into them. And we trust that they're going to just make the right decision when something gets presented to them, right? And as again, as long as they understand that there's some accountability to it if they don't do what they're supposed to do, right? But again, so I'd say it's very very similar to having kids, right?
Yeah.
Is when you're there, you can help lead them along the way, but otherwise you have to really just trust that they're going to make their best decision because you've hopefully taught them right from wrong and how to solve problems.
And with kids, and I know you have your game board kids, and your boys love games and
Mhm.
activities like that. Sometimes our employees just need to enjoy each other. So when I walk into
Yeah.
GQue, it's not just head down. You could tell there's a camaraderie and enjoyment with working, but because there's a rhythm, there's a lot of moving parts. But I can see that it's also a good culture. I know people enjoy working there. One of the last things that you said before, break in case of emergency.
Mhm.
How does that apply to business growth and business development?
I think the main event that really kind of kickstarted us to consider what that looks like, and I'm sure it probably did for a lot of others, is COVID, right? I mean, no one had a plan for what would a worldwide shutdown look like, right? No, we
Mhm.
didn't know what to do there. And in the restaurant sector, it was brutal for us, right? I mean, no one could come into restaurants, no one could eat. People were scrambling how to figure out how to do their food to go. How does that work? And so, fortunately for us, we were set up on the to go market. We were doing third party delivery already. So it hurt us. But
Mhm.
that day, we were able to just have a plan and then execute a plan. And that kind of goes back to just our nimbleness, right? We don't have a complicated structure where we can make a decision today and we can make a change before we were ready to open today. And so that's where really that kind of breaking case of emergency plan came in. So we do these SWOT analysis. I'm sure quite a few people are familiar with those. And one of those areas it talks about is just the threats, right? The external
Mhm.
threats. And so we constantly evaluate those just so that we have we're aware of what those threats are, but then we can create that breaking case of emergency plan. So whether it is around something that we experience all the time, like weather, here in Colorado, we had sub-zero temperatures for almost 3 days straight, and that has a huge negative impact on our business. So again, we had to pull out our break-even case of emergency plan to try to get people into the restaurant this weekend. You have things with supply chain. Again, I know a lot of different businesses deal with supply chain in different ways, but when you're dealing with live animals, a lot of things can happen. We went through bird flus. We went through different like recalls with different proteins. We use a higher grade beef. We currently use prime graded beef, which if most people don't know, I'm only about 3% of all
Mhm.
cattle gets graded out at prime, and you can't just manufacture prime. You have to feed them the right way and do things, and hopefully they grade out as prime. And so we're sometimes our hands are cuffed there because we're not going to go back on our quality, on our values of what got us to where we are today. So we're going to always try to serve the best product possible. So just sometimes having plans to where our supplier says, hey, there's no brisket this week. What's our plan? Right. And through COVID with those shutdowns, we had to deal with those. So it's just creating a bunch of breaking case of emergency plans to be able to have so you don't have to critically think in the moment when you're probably not really able to critically think. You can just, hey, this sounds familiar. Let me go to my envelope. Let me open up my break even case of emergency when brisket is no longer existent and this is
Yes.
what it is. And you already have that thought out.
You know, and I remember Thanksgiving meal of 2020. It was GQ in our family. The kids were like, "This is the best ever." Now, since then, I've gotten a smoker, and you've been mentoring me on fixing my brisket. My second brisket was better, but man, I do remember that year of trying to figure it out. And you guys are doing a great job. Well, personally, how are you staying sharpened? How are you being challenged? And how are you being inspired?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like each day is a new way just to feel inspired just by the people that we talk to, the guests that we get to interact with, the team that we get to interact with, and really just being able to put it on my shoulders as the leader to where if I expect growth and I expect individuals to develop, then I myself need to get better. So we have someone else on our team, Carrie, which you've met, and so we have her. She's like our talent officer, and so she helps us with some different development, whether it's from our leadership team or our team members. Right now, actually, one thing we're working on is financial wellness with our team, trying to create a
Mm,
financial literacy program for all of our staff to just how can they learn how to save for the future? How can they learn to get out of living from paycheck to paycheck? And again, it has nothing to do with barbecue, but it's all about just trying to grow people and just make them better humans, right? And so I have Carrie to help lean on, and her and I work together. Jason is wonderful to work with, and he's always trying to learn and just sharpen his axe as well. I just started a new book. It's called Super Communicators. I don't know if you've read
mm.
that one by I think it's Charles Duhigg is the author. But it's just again how to just be a better communicator, how to be more effective at listening and talking and making sure you're on different people's levels, right? Whether someone might be talking more from an emotional side, and then you're thinking it more of a logical side, right? So
Yeah.
trying to get on the same level. and just be better communicators. So really working on, I used to joke with people that wanted to get into the restaurant. They said, "Oh, I love cooking barbecue. Like, I'd love to open up one of these stores." And I would always joke, I said, cooking barbecue is about 2% of what we actually do,
Yes. Yes.
right? It's a that's the easy part, really, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
dealing with all the other, whether it's the guests, the team, vendors, whatever the case may be. I wish it was just coming in and cooking barbecue. That would be really easy.
Well, it's been great having you on the Momentum team. I know other business owners are challenged by you. I know about every quarter we cater GQ for some of our leadership workshops. And so that's coming up in 3 weeks. I'm excited for that as well. How can we find you and GQ and Ice Cream Farm?
Yeah, well, if you live in the greater Denver area, we have three restaurants that are open 7 days a week. One in Westminster, one in Lakewood, and then one in Lone Tree. We're opening up one more in Thornton in just a couple months, and then we're working on another one that's hopefully going to be on the far north side of Colorado. And we have our website gqbarbecue.com. We have a really cool way to try our food, really for free the first time. If you sign up for our loyalty, you get a free pulled pork sandwich, which is a $12 sandwich for free, no price necessary. So I don't even know anyone that just gives away that much food, especially in the day and age that we're in. So there we are on Instagram, TikTok. We have a lot of funny stuff. We have a social media that does all of our social media and some really fun content. So even if you don't live in Colorado, I think it's definitely worth worth following on there for.
Yeah, we're breaking up a little bit, but I will testify. I've been to all of your restaurants. And I've had your food in Folsom Field. I've had it in Coors Field. I haven't had it in Mile High yet. And so look for GQ Barbecue. I think you guys will be won over. Their barbecue sauces. I currently have pints of Ice Cream Farm ice cream in my basement. So call me a little bit of a fanboy of GQ, but love you guys, love your leadership. And to summarize, I heard hire from the heart. I heard kind of this empowerment and accountability, trust but verify, be nimble, have a plan. There's going to be a break in case of emergency. We don't know what's coming down as a business owner. We're always going to be surprised. So have a plan and have a team that's built for that break in case emergency. And hopefully you never break it and you'll be great. If you're a business leader out there in Colorado, Arizona, Kansas City, and you're looking for a group that Nick is part of to help grow you, to inspire you, to clean up your revenue and your expenses, and just be around some great valued people, come check us out. AcumenImpact.com. You can say, hey, I want to join a team, find our local activities and resources, events coming up. And we look forward to seeing you next month, Nick. Appreciate your time.